Story 1.
The day he disappeared. I don't talk about that day out loud anymore. Not because I'm afraid, or because I've made peace with it, I haven't. I just learned that when I do, people either look away, or lean in too close, like it's entertainment. But if I'm going to tell it, I'll tell it straight. No drama. No theories. Just what happened. My name's Alan Adadero. Jared was my son. 3 years old when he vanished. It was October 2nd, 1999. Cold morning, sun barely cutting through the trees. I ran a Christian retreat near the Poudre River in Colorado, and we had visitors that weekend, a group from the Singles Ministry. Good people. Harmless. The kind you trust without thinking about it. They wanted to hike up the Big South Trail, a moderate trail, well marked, maybe 6 miles total. Jared had been begging to go with them. He loved nature. Bugs, rocks, birds, he was at home in the trees. I told them it was okay. That's the part that never stops echoing. I said, yeah, he can go. They said they'd keep an eye on him. I believed them. I stayed behind to handle something with the lodge. Didn't think twice. Jared was with a group of 10 adults. He'd be safe. Until around 11 a.m. That's when one of them came back, pale, shaking, and asked me if Jared had returned on his own. Returned? I remember my body freezing, like the blood in me turned to ice. I asked, what do you mean returned? Returned from what? They told me he'd been walking ahead on the trail, just a few steps, and then, he was gone. No sound. No scream. No rustling. Just, gone. I jumped into my truck and drove straight to the trailhead. I ran. Screamed his name. The woods were too quiet. That awful, heavy kind of quiet where even your own breath feels loud. Within hours, the search started. Sheriff's deputies. Forest Service. Search and rescue. They brought dogs. Thermal cameras. Helicopters. They covered every inch of that trail, every slope, every ridge, every stream. Nothing. I remember one of the searchers saying something that stuck in my skull. It's like he was picked up off the ground and carried away. They meant by an animal. A mountain lion, maybe. But there was no blood. No drag marks. Just footprints, tiny ones, leading up the trail. And then stopping. Clean. As if the earth had decided to erase him. The first night, they searched until it got dangerous. Steep drops. Cold air. Pitch black woods. They promised to resume at dawn, and they did, dozens of people, volunteers, dogs. But I couldn't sleep. Not even for a second. I sat in my truck, staring into the dark, trying to believe my son was just curled up somewhere, scared. Waiting. By day 3, that lie stopped working. I wasn't just Jared's father anymore. I was part of the search now, walking the trails myself, helping the ground teams, looking at maps, checking prints. I remember staring at those little boot prints over and over. They were there, small, perfect, pressed into soft dirt. And then they stopped. Just like that. I asked if the dogs had tracked him farther. They hadn't. I asked if he could have climbed somewhere. A 3-year-old? In sneakers? One of the rangers pulled me aside that afternoon. He didn't say it directly, but it was all over his face. We should have found something by now. They didn't mean Jared. They meant anything. A scrap of fabric. A shoe. A torn wrapper. But there was nothing. The trail just ended. On day 6, they brought in psychics. Not official, of course, just desperate volunteers. I remember one woman standing in the creek bed, eyes closed, muttering. She said he was above the water. That he was watching us from the trees. I walked away. I didn't need visions. I needed Jared. But here's the thing. Some of the searchers started agreeing with her. Not about the psychic part, but about the trail. Because by then, we'd noticed something strange. Some of the areas we searched, changed. I know how that sounds. But it happened more than once. A boulder that had been moss-covered the day before, dry and cracked the next. A section of trail we cleared completely, now full of branches again, as if no one had touched it. At first, we blamed ourselves. Confusion. Fatigue. But then a guy named Tony, one of the more experienced wilderness trackers, pulled me aside one night. He said, "You ever feel like the woods are covering for something?" I said nothing. Because I'd already felt it too. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was rejection. The forest didn't want us there. And Jared? It felt like it had taken him. Not violently. Just claimed him. And no matter how many eyes we brought into those woods, they would only show us what they wanted to. They called off the official search after 10 days. I didn't stop. Weeks turned into months. I handed out flyers, contacted psychics, wilderness trackers, private investigators. I hiked that trail a dozen times, in sun, in snow, in silence. Every time I walked it, I felt the same thing. Like I was being tolerated. Not welcomed. Just allowed, briefly. Time passed. The world moved on. People said things like, "You need closure." But closure isn't real. It's a word people use so they can stop talking about grief. Then, in June of 2000, 8 months later, I got a call. A group of hikers had found remains. High up. Way off the trail. Too high, really. Too remote. I don't remember driving there. I don't remember parking. I just remember the ranger who met me couldn't make eye contact. They found Jared's clothes. Pants. Jacket. Shoes. Folded neatly on a rock, like someone had undressed him with care. No rips. No blood. No dirt. The sweatshirt looked like it had just come out of a dryer. The shoes were pristine, untouched by weather, as if they hadn't been outside for a day. And nearby, a few bones. Animal activity, they said. But they also said something else. This area was searched. Twice. Thoroughly. And I believed them, because I had walked that ridge myself. There was no way we missed it. No way. Unless, it wasn't there until now. Unless someone, or something, put it back. Years have gone by. I still run the lodge. I still get quiet when it gets too cold too fast. I still wonder what Jared saw in those woods. Because he wasn't attacked. There was no sign of panic. He walked ahead. And then he was somewhere else. And wherever he was, it didn't hurt him. Not in a violent way. But it did something. Something that can fold time. Or hide space. Or decide when, and how, to return a child. People always ask, "What do you think happened to him?" And I say the same thing every time. He went ahead on the trail. But I don't think we ever followed him far enough.
Story 2.
He was gone for 5 days. I didn't even know he was missing until the 4th day. We hadn't spoken in a couple weeks. Travis liked to go off-grid when life got too loud, usually a weekend in the woods, sleeping in his truck, fishing, maybe a solo hike. He wasn't a survivalist or anything. Just, liked the quiet. He left on a Tuesday. By Friday, I got a call from the sheriff's office in Lane County. "Do you know where your brother is?" He'd gone into the Three Sisters Wilderness, Oregon, late autumn, cold but not dangerous yet. There's a loop trail up there he liked, just under 9 miles. Said it helped him reset his head. But he never signed out. A ranger found his truck at the base of the loop. Empty. Locked. Keys inside. No sign of struggle. No note. No gear missing, everything was still in the back seat. They ran a sweep of the trail that night. Nothing. Then they called me. I flew out the next morning. Met the search team on site. They'd already brought in dogs. Thermal drones. Even a few Forest Service guys from out of state. He couldn't have gone far, one of them told me. If he's out there, we'll find him. But the forest didn't make sense. There were no prints. No signs of a fall. No torn branches. Just cold, damp quiet. One of the dogs led them about a quarter mile up the trail, then stopped dead. Whined. Backed away. Nothing ahead. Just fog and trees. They expanded the search zone. 3 miles. 5. 10. Still nothing. Then, 5 days after he vanished, Travis walked out of the woods. He wasn't dirty. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't even that cold. He looked blank. His clothes were dry. His hands were clean. No scratches. No bruises. He just appeared on a road about 6 miles west of the trailhead, barefoot. A couple driving an RV spotted him. Said he was standing on the shoulder, staring into the trees like he was trying to remember something. He didn't say much when they stopped. Just asked for a phone. When I saw him at the hospital, he looked straight through me. I said his name. He said mine, but like it didn't taste right. "Where's Mom?" he asked. I told him she passed 2 years ago. His face didn't move. He said, quietly, "No. She's at home. I just saw her." They ran every test they could think of. Vitals normal. Blood clean. Mild dehydration, but that was it. The doctor said it didn't make sense. 5 days out there, alone. He should have been in worse shape. Hypothermia, at least. But his core temp was steady. When I asked Travis what happened, he just shrugged. "I walked the trail." That's all he said for a long time. But I started to notice things. Small things, first. Like the shirt he was wearing. It wasn't his. He always hiked in the same old REI thermal, blue and frayed at the cuffs. But this one was a different brand, a little big, tag cut off. His boots were also off. Found later, tucked neatly beside a tree. Like someone had taken them off for him. He didn't recognize the boots. Then there was the watch. Travis wore this ugly digital thing our dad gave him in high school, never took it off. When they found him, he was still wearing it. But the display was frozen. Wednesday 9:42 a.m. That was less than 24 hours after he left. And it never changed. Battery full. Screen fine. It just stopped, on its own. He got quiet when I asked about it. Like it scared him. Over the next few days, he started saying strange things. He said he remembered walking the trail, but it wasn't right. I'd turn around, and the trees weren't the same. Like the whole place shifted when I wasn't looking. He said he heard people calling him, but not by name. And when he tried to follow the voices, the trail looped in ways that didn't exist. He also kept asking about things that weren't real. "Where's the old house with the red door? Didn't we have a dog? Wasn't there a fire here once?" Things that never happened. He started confusing our childhood memories. Telling stories from my life like they were his. Mixing faces. Describing people who don't exist. One night, he got up around 2 a.m. Just stood at the window, staring out into the trees behind my place. I asked what he was doing. He said, without turning, I think I'm still out there. 2 weeks after he came back, the Forest Service called me. They'd checked the wildlife trail cameras, just in case. There was one placed near a split in the loop, where the trail divides into 2 ridges. At 4:12 a.m. on day 3 of his disappearance, it captured something. A shape. Not a person walking past. A person standing still. For over 2 hours. Just inside the tree line. The resolution was rough, but you could see him, Travis. Same build. Same jacket. But he wasn't moving. At all. His arms hung at his sides. His face, blank. And his head was tilted slightly to the left, like he was listening. The ranger who showed me the clip looked disturbed. He didn't blink once. Not for 2 hours. I never told Travis. But I did ask him if he remembered being watched. He nodded slowly and said, "I never saw it. But I knew it was there. It was like, it was trying to decide if I belonged." Then he went quiet, like he'd said too much. That was the last time we really talked about it. After a month, he left town. Didn't say where. No forwarding address. Just a note, needed space. But a few months later, I got something strange in the mail. No return label. No message. Just a flash drive. I plugged it into my laptop. One file. Audio only. At first, just forest sounds, wind, birds, a squirrel maybe. Then footsteps. Then, breathing. Too close. And a voice. It sounded like Travis. But it wasn't how he talks. Too slow. Drawn out. Like someone trying to recreate his speech from memory. The voice whispered, "I'm here now." He stayed. Then silence. Then static. Then another voice, deeper, layered beneath. One of us had to. I haven't heard from him since. But I still get mail. Random things. An envelope full of pine needles. A map of the trail with no writing on it, just a red dot far off the loop. A photo, once. Of a tree stump with 2 sets of footprints around it, one human, one, wider. I don't tell anyone about those. Not the police. Not even our parents. They think he's just hiding. They still send birthday cards. But I check the woods sometimes. Not for Travis. For the other one. Because the longer he's gone, the more I feel like he didn't leave something behind. He left someone.
Story 3.
I heard myself in the woods. It was supposed to be a simple weekend hike. Me, my girlfriend Marissa, and 2 friends, Anna and Caleb. We were all used to the trails around Olympic National Park. Nothing extreme. We camped all the time. But this trip was different from the beginning. Marissa had been off. Not sick. Not tired. Just distracted. She kept glancing into the woods like she was hearing something. On the drive out, she said the trees looked closer than usual. I laughed it off. Shouldn't have. We started on the Deer Ridge Trail late Friday afternoon. The air was dry, quiet. Almost too quiet. We didn't see another person the whole first day. At camp, Marissa barely spoke. She sat on a log, staring into the woods behind the tent. I asked what was up. She just said, "I keep hearing something familiar." That night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to her unzipping the tent. I thought she was going to pee. But she didn't come back. I waited maybe 5 minutes, then stepped out after her. No flashlight. No sound. The woods were pitch black, but I could just barely make out her silhouette standing 20 feet from the tent. She wasn't moving. Just standing there, like she was listening. I called her name. She turned around slowly and said, "Why did you call me?" I said, "Because you walked off in the dark." And she frowned. "I didn't." "You did." Then she blinked, looked around, and seemed totally confused. Back in the tent, she wouldn't talk. Her hands were shaking. She kept whispering. "It sounded like you, but it wasn't your voice." The next morning, she said she was fine. We pushed forward, hit the ridge, made camp early. Everything seemed normal. Until just before sunset. Marissa asked me where I went earlier. I said, "Nowhere. I've been here all day." She looked pale. "But I heard you," she said. "You were calling me. From the trees." I didn't know what to say. She stared at me for a long time. Then whispered, "What if there's something in there that knows how to sound like you?" She disappeared on the second night. We'd made camp near a small clearing, maybe a mile off the main trail. The sun had just gone down. Marissa said she wanted to brush her teeth before bed, walked off with her headlamp toward the stream we'd passed earlier. She didn't come back. At first I wasn't worried. We were experienced. She had a light. The stream was close. But 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I called her name. Nothing. The headlamp should have been visible from the camp, the trail wasn't steep. But there was no light. No movement. Just trees. I woke Caleb. We grabbed our own lights and followed the path. No sign of her. No response to shouting. We split up briefly, sweeping the area around the stream. That's when I heard it. I'm here. Clear. Quiet. From deeper in the trees. I turned, relief flooding my chest, and called out. "Marissa." "Over here," the voice answered. "Come quick." But something felt wrong. It wasn't the words. It was the way they landed, like they were being played through a speaker 1 second too late. I moved forward slowly. The woods were so quiet it hurt. Then I saw it, the headlamp. Half buried in moss. Still on. Just the light. No Marissa. I picked it up, scanned the trees. Then I heard her voice again, but this time, from behind me. "I'm here." I turned. Nothing. And that's when I noticed the forest wasn't the same. The branches looked thicker. The path wasn't where it had been. And my footprints, the ones I just made, were gone. I called Caleb's name. He didn't answer. But Marissa's voice did. Again. "Come here." I don't remember how I made it back to camp. Caleb said I was gone for almost an hour. Said I looked pale. Like I'd seen something. I told him what happened. Anna didn't believe it, said Marissa must have just gotten turned around. But in the morning, we found prints. Bare feet. Leading away from the stream, deep into the brush, in a direction none of us had searched. The weirdest part. The stride length was wrong. Too long for someone her height. Almost like she'd been walking on tiptoe. Or, being led. We called search and rescue. Reported her missing. They arrived the next morning. Brought dogs. Teams. Choppers. Same story, no signs. No scent trail. The woods just swallowed her. But 2 days later, we heard something on the camp's trail cam. At 3:44 a.m., the motion sensor triggered. And for 1 second, on the edge of the frame, a figure. Back turned. Standing between 2 trees. Wearing Marissa's jacket. But standing too straight. Almost stiff. And behind her, barely visible, another shape. Taller. Still. Watching. They found her 6 days later. A group of volunteers hiking a ridge 2 miles off the original trail spotted something down in a ravine, a flash of red against the moss. It was Marissa. Alive. Sitting cross-legged at the base of a cedar tree. Eyes open. Barefoot. Dirt on her face like she'd been sleeping with it. They called her name. She didn't answer. She just looked past them, into the woods behind them, like something else was still speaking. At the hospital, she wouldn't talk for the first day. She didn't cry. She wasn't scared. She just watched people. When I finally got to see her, she blinked a few times and said, "I thought you were already here." I asked what she meant. She didn't answer. Doctors ran tests, no head trauma, no dehydration, no signs of abuse or exposure. Her clothes were barely dirty. Her vitals were perfect. None of it made sense. And then there was what she said later. The thing that changed everything. She said she remembered being with us. At camp. Making breakfast. Laughing. But we weren't there. Because by that time, we'd already called for help. She insisted it wasn't a dream. That the forest had another version of our group. She said, "You were there, but you weren't you." When I asked what that meant, she said the worst thing I've ever heard. "You moved wrong. Like your bones didn't know where to bend." She said the trees never stopped whispering. That some nights, she could hear herself talking back. Not thinking. Talking. Out loud. In her own voice. But saying things she didn't understand. Before they released her, one of the search coordinators pulled me aside. He asked if I wanted to know where they found her. I said sure. He told me the GPS coordinates. I checked them against the maps later that night. I wish I hadn't. It was an area we had searched 3 times. Once with dogs. Once with thermal drones. Once with a full grid. And there was nothing. Not a single sign. Until she was there. She lives out of state now. Moved within a month. Changed her number. Didn't tell many people. Sometimes I think about messaging her. Just to see how she's doing. But the truth is, I'm afraid. Because ever since she came back. Sometimes, late at night, I hear my own voice. Whispering from the trees outside my window.